So I've been there. I've been in the place where, there wasn't really much to be proud of about being Asian. Like, if you see what media has shown you about being Asian, about just anything, I never saw any positive role models, even in my own life. So it's hard to be proud of something when you don't know the history. When you're just a kid, you're like 12 years old. What do you know? And you have no examples to strive for or, base yourself on, So I've been there.
Did you always feel like an outsider?
Yeah, I definitely did, man. And luckily for me, I talked about this, but I moved to California when I was 13. And as you know, California is a huge spot for Asian Americans in general. So now I have all this exposure to Asian people. And the crazy thing is I had my negative perception of Asian people when I got here because I was constantly fed, propaganda, media of how Asians are represented. So I had the self-hatred, which I know a lot of you guys listening have had that, especially for those.
Gotcha.
And I'm talking about the ones who had very little exposure to any other Asians. So if you grew up with Asians, you're probably not going to understand this. So have an open mind when I talk about this. So when some people are like, I don't understand how you can have self-hatred, blah, 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 but you also have to understand the way the person was raised, the way the person was exposed. And that's the reason why I created Asian Menswear, because I see both sides. Because I was born in a place where there wasn't a lot of Asians, and I grew up in that space. And then because I was exposed to a ton of Asians after, in the middle of like my formative years, I got to see the power of how media can change your perception, even though I'm Asian myself. And I felt that way, right? So if I felt that way, I'm sure a lot of other Asians felt that way. And I hear stories about it all the time. Like, oh, man, I hated Asians. Then I went to college. Then I seen all these Asians. Now I'm trying to embrace my Asianness. And then they go through this journey. Now, if you were born into a community where there's a ton of Asians, a ton of reasons to be proud of being Asian, you're not going to feel that way, right? So let's understand that. And that also leads to like dating life. And like, I understand why Asian men aren't desired. Because what do you have to be desired? If the standard attractiveness for a man in America is supposed to be this masculine, tall, strong, confident, not awkward guy, the opposite is the Asian man. And that's exactly what you see in media. If you don't hang out with an Asian person, which most non-Asians don't, because Asians as a population were small, so the chance of you ever running to an Asian is very low, then all they have is media to take on the perception, right? So so just think about it. If you're a woman and the standard attractiveness is this thing I just created, right? I just said tall.
Captain America.
Yeah, let's give you Captain America, Batman, James Bond, all this, right?
Exactly.
So then give me your reflection of the Asian person back in 2000s. Who would that be? You don't have an example of that unless you can't count for the foreign movies. I'm talking about just Asian cinema, Hollywood. What Asian person can you give me? Well, unless this person exists in your own life, right? What you're gonna tell me? You're gonna tell me King Jong?
It's just Ken Jong, but that's why the negative on him. That's why he's always a hot topic, because we've had years of James Bond, Captain America, Bruce Wayne, Batman, and then we have Ken Jong. That's the opposite. That's crazy to hear that. Like, even you growing up, your perception of Asians was what you saw on
very
TV.
negative.
Like, that's crazy.